Most of the parts on this 1971 Ariens snow throw have been sandblasted, primed, painted, and clear coated. But how did we get it all to this point? Hey guys and gals, welcome to Garage Gear. I'm JB, and after ripping this entire snowblower down, a majority of the parts went off to be sandblasted. I took them to Radium Powder Coating in Depew, New York, which was conveniently about 10 minutes from my house. The staff at Radium Powder Coating did a fantastic job sandblasting every corner and crevice to get each part down to bare metal. Any and all rust was blasted right off, and all the parts came out with a much smoother finish. And this was far better of a job than I could have done with any grinder in my garage. To me, it was worth every penny, and I'll have Radium Powder Coating's contact information linked down below in the description. And while all the parts were out being sandblasted, I got down to business here in the garage setting up my DIY paint booth. I knew I was going to be doing a ton of spraying, so I needed to contain the mess and block some of the wind. Check this out. So I wanted to give you guys a quick tour of my DIY paint booth here. I called a few appliance stores and I managed to pick up a giant refrigerator box. This was big. So taking a look inside, here's what we got. We have plenty of space. I put some bright LED flashlights up in here. I even cut a hole up in the top box. So I have plenty of light so I can see exactly what I'm working on. I got some sawhorses and a little bit of extra cardboard down below with a wooden board up on top, and then another piece of cardboard here so I can kind of pivot my pieces and turn them around if I need to. Then in the back, this window that I cut out here, this I put on the other side a furnace filter, and on the other side of that is a big box fan drawing the air this way through the vent. So basically what's happening here is as I'm spraying my paint, any excess paint's being collected here on this furnace filter, and then the fumes are just blowing out of the garage. This way I'm not breathing in all those fumes, and it's just out of my air, out of sight, out of mind. Here on the back side, yep, I rigged this up, and check it out. This is a big old box fan. This is a Kmart special, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, it's a blue light special from back in the day. You can see that there's really no paint on this frame that's on the outside of this fan, so that means it's just blowing the fumes out. All the paint is being collected here on the back side of this air filter. So that filter there is doing a great job. Now to further protect my garage and some other belongings I have behind this tarp, what I did is I just hung this tarp up nice and high, hung it up to my siding. It just hangs down, and this is actually stopping just a little bit. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there is some paint there that kind of drifted down. Some did manage to blow out, and it just wound up here on the tarp, so that was good. Same thing over here on this side. You can see it a little bit more. Any paint that kind of blew out this way just landed here, which wasn't much. This actually did a really good job just pulling all that paint that way. And hanging up top, what I did is I just stuck a sidewalk marker right up here, and I stuck it through, and then I hung some hangers. I just snipped some hangers in half and hung them, and this way I can hang all my pieces, spray them real quick, let them hang, let them dry, and let the fumes go right out. I even tarped off all our bikes and everything because this is a lot of paint here that I'm spraying, and this booth was more than handy, especially when I had to test sprays and see how things were gonna go on. These walls just became my test subjects, and everything else here was tarped off, so that way no paint could affect the garage floor or anything like that. And what this paint booth definitely helped me out with was blocking a lot of the wind, because a lot of the wind goes this direction, so it really helped me keep a good steady stream spraying out of every can without that interference from the wind. And when you spray a lot of spray paint, you tend to get that cloud, and there was a cloud of orange in here a little bit, but that really contained the bulk of it. And I know some people out there are gonna say, well, you didn't, fully enclose it. Well, we're painting a snowblower here, guys. We're not painting a car. Not to worry, every piece turned out just fine, and that booth was a big help. That whole setup only cost me about 15 bucks because of the filter that I had to put on the backside, and that was it. So not bad. Anybody that's done some serious painting before knows that prep work is everything, and having that paint booth was a huge help, and helped give this video some huge help with the YouTube algorithm. Would you mind hitting that like button? Thank you. 2 weeks later, we got the parts back from sandblasting, and we were ready to go. And I jumped on this within an hour of getting all the parts back. Now, I work with an auto body teacher at the school that I teach at, and I follow a lot of auto body guys here on YouTube, and they all had a lot of good advice. For the most part, the parts were all really clean, but I wiped them down with acetone. This got any remaining grease and grime off of them. Believe it or not, there was still just a tiny amount jammed into some tight crevices. Getting a little carried away with the WD-40? Maybe. From there, it was time to prime. Prime.
Let's roll!
From here, I used Rust-Oleum Automotive Primer. It was good for wet sanding, which I'll talk about in a minute. It was fast drying, and it also works great on all metal surfaces. I did everything twice, and it took about 9 cans. Yeah, Seriously, that many. Every part got 2 coats because just 1 coat didn't seem to look like it covered it well enough. And I really took the time to make sure that I got this primer on everything. I really wanted the paint to stick well, so I coated everything super heavy with primer, and it looks like I didn't miss a single spot. 9 cans later, and it turned out great. While I was doing all this painting, the temperatures outside were perfect for all this work. And again, I still say it, the best time to paint a snowblower is in the summer months. I was able to put all the parts out in the driveway in the hot sun, and they dried quick. And as they dried, the primer coat on them got a little powdery and a little grainy. That's the best way I can describe it, and this is normal, so the best thing I could do here was just smooth it all out. I did end up doing some quick wet sanding, and this only took about a few minutes to do. I used 600 grit sandpaper, along with a spray bottle of water, and I lightly sanded everything. This knocked down any imperfections and got the whole surface ready for a base coat. And because of the hot sun, everything dried super fast and it didn't affect the primer coats. From there, everything got wiped down with lint-free cloths and spray away glass cleaner, which left no residue and managed to pick up everything the wet sanding left behind. A lot of paint guys that I follow actually recommended this step, and it worked really well. It cleaned up everything nice and easy and left nothing behind. Now that everything was primed and cleaned, it was time for paint. For this, I went with Ariens Orange Touch-Up Paint. Big shout out to Pro Parts Direct for sending me the paint for this project. Thank you very much. If you're looking to save a few bucks on this project, as an alternative, you could go with Chevy Orange Engine Enamel. That's a good close second to this. This Ariens Orange Touch-Up Paint was a direct match to the Ariens Orange that you see on the current models, so everything turned out great. But if you think 1 coat would be enough, you're way off. You actually need 2 on everything. The first coat just kind of got the paint on there. The second coat filled in all the gaps. Now for any parts that are being painted white, like the engine, the belt cover, all those parts got painted with Rust-Oleum Gloss Protective Enamel in Arctic White. This went on really well and all the parts look brand new. And I sprayed everything with the Ariens Orange and the Arctic White at about a 75% overlap. So I laid it on thick. Damn, that's thick! I know, but all the parts look brand new like they're off the factory line. And now that all the parts were painted, it was time to clear coat everything. And I didn't use no normal clear coat that you find out at a store on the shelf. I bought the good stuff, and this is Spray Max 2K Clear Glamour. This basically gives you a car level clear coat. It's thicker, it's shinier and glossier, and you can see your reflection in that paint now. This basically put a thick protective barrier of glass over everything. Standard spray-on clear coats that you see from like Rust-Oleum and other brands that are in 1K don't really do a good protective job. They tend to yellow a little bit, and they don't really provide a deep shine. This is where the party's at. These parts are so shiny I can see my future in them. And by the way, this stuff is super dangerous to use. Check this out. The front half of the can is a warning label. And then on the back side, even more warning labels. It has a catalyst in it, and basically what you do is you take this red popper off the top, stick it on this little tab here on the bottom, and then you press it down on like a concrete floor or hard surface, and you're gonna hear a little pop. And then what that's doing is it's releasing a catalyst inside the can, and that's gonna mix with your clear coat, and that's what makes it super hard and super durable. Only problem is at that point, you're basically working with a ticking time bomb, and you get about 2 hours to use the can. Some people say that they can stick it in their fridge and it might get a little bit longer life, but realistically, once I cracked this thing, I was going with it, and I was done with the can within a matter of minutes. This is not something you want to inhale at all. For the priming, the painting, and then the clear coating, you're definitely gonna want a heavy duty respirator. Check this thing out. Look, the pads are all orange. It's got orange paint all over it. I wrecked this thing. A cheap chintzy mask with this stuff ain't gonna fly. And when using this, you definitely have to cover up all your skin, and I threw on a full-on paint suit, and I got a little stinky and a little sweaty in that thing on these hot summer days. Once I was done spraying every single part, I put them out in the sun so that way the clear coat could harden right up. And after several hours of clear coating over the course of a couple of days, all the parts were looking super shiny. I love how all the parts turned out. The shine is looking absolutely incredible on all of this. And at about 20 bucks a can, and 6 cans later, she was fully clear coated with 2 coats on every part for maximum protection. At this point, I still have to paint a few plastic parts and clear coat a few control handles, and that's about it. Check this out though. This is probably my favorite part of this whole process. Look at this engine. This is a nice Arctic white. It's hard to believe that this was black at one point. You got the body of it right here, all white, and this recoil assembly here just makes it absolutely pop. That looks incredible. You can see here this black carburetor cover. This I still have to paint, but this will look to match all the other parts here. So that's gonna turn out great when it's done. Then you got parts like this belt cover. This looks incredible. This was so rusty before, and that sandblasting did an outstanding job. All decked out, all nice and bright white. Look at the shine on that. Look at that. That is incredible. Down here is the belly pan, and this was actually my test panel. This was the first thing that I painted, and look at that. Do you see that reflection? Look at that shine. That is amazing. Got all the controls right here. Check this out. This looks really good. This is for engaging your belts. Same thing here. Looking really nice. This part right here is for your shifter. That's gonna look really good when you get the new stickers on this thing. That's gonna look great. And then these right here are your shift levers, and I painted them the same silver as I did right here. This is a high temp paint, and I figured why not just use this same paint, because I still had like half a can left. I just painted these two, and these turned out awesome. One of the things that I want to go back to the engine on right here is probably the most controversial topic of this whole snowblower, the gas cap. Now, I've looked and looked and looked, I've done my research, and all the original gas caps were either white and a few were red, but I didn't see any black ones. And I don't want to leave this black on here, and red's really not going to kind of go with all of this. So I figured, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this a nice orange to match this, and this is just going to make the whole engine just pop. I think it's going to look cool with an orange cap. It's just going to totally set off that white gas tank up on top. I think it's gonna look awesome. Now, some were wondering, why didn't I just powder coat all of this? Well, from what I found in my local area, it was super expensive. After coughing up all the money for the cans, it wasn't much cheaper, but would it have been better? Maybe, but I wanted the joy of painting this whole thing. I wanted to do it. Plus, to those DIYers out there, they're gonna be doing the same, probably using spray cans along the way. And just going and picking up the parts from a powder coating center doesn't exactly make it really interesting with a lot of content. I wanted to have some fun with this, so that's the route I went. If you're interested in checking out all the other videos that I did on this whole repaint process, I'll have them linked down below in the description. But for now, let's take a quick walk around the parts and check them out. So here is the bucket, and this actually got 3 coats inside here to help protect everything. Take a look, this is just, oh, that is buttery smooth through there. Look at the shine. Boom, look at that. That is incredible. I am so happy how all this turned out. Back here, I did end up replacing the bearing too. Here's a look at it from the backside. The bearing was good, but it wasn't great. So I figured, hey, let's just spend the 25 bucks on it. We'll slap a new bearing in there, grease everything up, seal it up tight, and we're good to go. Inside down the chute, this is super smooth. This got coated really well. And looking from the back angle, just look at all that shine. Now here's the chute, and this as well got 3 coats on the inside. Looks really nice. And as I flip it around up here, they did leave this rubber handle up on top. What they did is they just coated it with some thick tape, and then they sandblasted right up to the edge. So it did get a little roughed up, but no big deal, it looks great. Then we got the augers here, and for some weird reason or another, these are actually the smoothest parts on this entire snowblower. That is just buttery smooth. They look fantastic. They look brand new. Basically like they rolled off the assembly line. Even over here too, just look at that shine. Bam! That is some high gloss. That is looking nice. Over here, here's the impeller. You can see the holes that I drilled out for the impeller kit. Those are gonna go back on this for sure, but look at that. Super coated, super shiny. Everything's got a layer of clear coat on it or 2, so we're looking really nice. This was actually the hardest part. This was the most aggravating because I had to keep flipping it to paint the underside, to paint the top side, and I ended up nicking it there, so that's an aggravation. What are you gonna do? I'll just touch that up. But this is how they kind of coated this thing. Look at this. They wrapped it in some serious Gorilla duct tape. You can see the shiny metal right here. They didn't want to ruin this metal. They figured it was still in good shape. So I got to still get this off. And believe me, when I say this, this isn't coming off with a fight. This is really on there. All in all, looking really good. Check out the wheels. These came out really nice too. What I ended up doing was sticking 3x5 cards around the outside, around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. And what that ended up doing was allow me to block the tires from getting any paint on them. But just to be on the safe side, I wrapped them in saran wrap too, so that way no paint got on these things. Because these are new, I didn't want to ruin them. And that is the Arctic White all the way through. Did the backside too. Little bend right there, but nobody's gonna see that because it's on the inside. This one looks really good too. These came out just great. Outstanding. Probably one of my second favorite parts right here on this whole snowblower is this transmission housing, because the way the white kind of goes nicely with the orange right here for the wheel axles. These were actually like a silver, and you know what? To take these off and to paint them and everything would have been a huge pain in the neck to get these out. So I just said, you know what? We're just gonna paint right over it. Same with the hardware. It looks fine. No one's gonna see this because the wheels are so big, they're gonna cover this anyways. So I just figured, hey, I'll just tape this off right here at the axle, and then I painted the axles all white. Those look brand spanking new. They look terrific. They work great. We're in good shape. Check this out. Super shiny all the way through. Look at the reflection of that axle inside the transmission housing. That just looks amazing. Here's the hub. I did have to grind off that painted on Ariens logo, which I was a little upset about, but it looks a lot whiter now, and I did find a sticker to pop right on it. Backside of this too looks really good. We're in good shape. At this point, we're repainting those plastic components, cleaning up all the hardware, and then we're putting it all back together. For more cool garage gear content, click or tap the screen right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the garage.